Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Fowler, and today we discuss how Mario, in one session, cured his severe social anxiety as well as anxiety surrounding traveling to new places. We discuss what was causing his anxiety and what exactly we did to rewire his brain and permanently remove it. Guess what? You can do it too. We have solutions here. We're not just educating. And after Mario, we show how my friend Ryan substantially and permanently reduced his anxiety about approaching attractive women with one self hypnosis session he did by himself. He accomplished this even after he tried and failed to fix his anxiety with multiple other supposed remedies. How could he fix his unhealthy anxiety permanently in about an hour, maybe a little longer, merely with a self hypnosis process? Watch further to find the answer. But before we go into these client interviews, we're going to take a deep dive into why subconscious trauma is the root cause of maladaptive, unhealthy anxiety. We're going to talk about how to become aware of the trauma causing this anxiety and how to remove it permanently, often in as little as one sitting. I've done this for myself and many, many others. If you struggle with anxiety, ask yourself, what have you tried to do to reduce that anxiety to healthy levels? How has that worked for you? If the remedies you try have worked, then great. But if you still struggle, this video discusses a solution, not just education. So I hope you'll listen and consider what I have to say. It may just change your life. I used to struggle massively with anxiety. I felt it all the time and oftentimes had no idea what my anxiety was about. Then at times, the smallest thing, such as a phone ringing, would make my anxiety spike drastically. We should further note that not all anxiety is bad. For example, if you're on a 2 foot wide mountain path and it's 1,000 foot drop to one side on your right, you should be anxious. That anxiety is either going to keep you extra careful on that path or it's going to make you pick a different, safer path. It's keeping you alive. That, again, is anxiety working to serve us. But what about anxiety that holds us back, keeps us from getting what we want, keeps us from taking risks that are calculated risks that in the long run are probably going to pay off. And even if it doesn't work the first time, if we keep going, then we get big success as opposed to living a small, safe, mediocre life. If you have anxiety holding you back or even just making you procrastinate or not do or talk to or make friends or get what you want, then that's the anxiety that we want to fix. So, what is the root issue that causes unhealthy anxiety? Well, it's childhood trauma and traumatic subconscious beliefs that are causing the flight part or the freeze part of our fight, flight, or freeze system. It's triggering it. It's triggering that response in a maladaptive manner. Anytime you are in a new situation, you want to be aware that you're going to be out of your comfort zone. And that's okay, but that should not be super strong anxiety. It's usually 2, 3, 4 out of 10, not any stronger than that. For example, I live in Mexico City right now, and I'd only visited Mexico once before. And the first time I actually moved here to live here, about 2 weeks beforehand, constantly, I had about a 3 out of 10 anxiety. I understood that was just going into a new situation I hadn't been before. That is not subconscious trauma. It's not a bad subconscious program. It's just instinct, how we are. We get a little uncomfortable when we're doing new, unfamiliar things. It's getting out of our comfort zone. However, if the anxiety is any higher than that, then something else is going on. And so when there's anxiety higher than that, and it's not warning us of a legitimate threat, then in that case, there is almost always an unhealthy subconscious belief and feeling in us because our brain does motivate us to familiar, uncomfortable things, avoid unfamiliar, new things. A stronger urge that we have or instinct that we have is pursue pleasure. But above all, our brain wants us to avoid pain. The most common type of subconscious trauma is toxic shame. Toxic shame is feeling not good enough in some way or feeling like you don't belong to a group or you're rejected by others or you don't fit in. Unhealthy anxiety is our brain's attempt to avoid triggering toxic shame or similar painful traumatic subconscious programs, almost always developed in childhood. because feeling these bad feelings, feeling bad, wrong, unworthy, rejected, unlovable, they're among the most painful feelings that we can feel. Subconscious trauma can also trigger greatly exaggerated feelings of being unsafe, which may also cause anxiety. Maybe there's no threat there and you feel unsafe, or maybe it's just a very small, minuscule threat, but it's exaggerated. This too is a subconscious program that can be removed using the superneuroplasticity protocol, or SMP for short, that I discussed in my last 4 videos before this one about superneuroplasticity. It's a method backed by a plethora of rigorous research and hard science that proves we can rapidly and permanently rewire our brain, often in just one sitting, but only if certain conditions are met. So let's quickly summarize the conditions that put our brain in a superneuroplastic state. That means a state where our brain can quickly be rewired to just get rid of this trauma that is triggering this anxiety. And again, the anxiety is just the flight or freeze portion of our fight or flight system in our limbic system that is trying to avoid any situation where these painful subconscious beliefs can be triggered. So the first condition that must be met to make our brain rewirable is awareness of the root cause or the root issue in our mind that we want to change. We also combine this with alertness, which is tied to a neurochemical called epinephrine. And epinephrine release is heightened through feeling intense emotions. The third condition that must be met is we must have intense focus on what it is in our mind and our brain that we want to change. And then number 4, we tell our subconscious to change while under hypnosis. It can also be done under the influence of certain psychedelics. And you can learn how to use this SMP protocol for yourself for free with our subconscious optimization course. You can see it right there below. That's the link. It is a do-it-yourself program. There are one-on-one guidance and stronger methods available as well, but that is absolutely free, and it's helped many people and can be very powerful. So I encourage you to try it. So the first step to removing anxiety is to become aware of the subconscious trauma at the root of it. In order to do this, it's important to understand that our subconscious mind communicates to and influences us by way of emotion, instinct, and intuition. Furthermore, every emotion has a belief or narrative tied to it. This is true without exception. Our emotions, therefore, provide us a path to follow to discover the subconscious beliefs in us that are at the root of our unhealthy anxieties. And figuring out what is at the root of your anxiety, a good rule of thumb is when you're feeling this anxiety, ask yourself, what's the worst thing I'm afraid might happen right now? And how would I feel if it actually happens? It can be especially useful if you can remember a time when such a worst case or bad scenario actually did happen. If you can remember that, how did you feel then? That feeling and what the feeling means, the belief tied to it, that is a traumatic subconscious program. It's not the early memory or event when a belief formed as a child, when the program formed. A lot of times in hypnosis, people are taken back to an early childhood memory. But please understand, the memory is not the subconscious program. It's the belief tied to the feeling. What happened is when these things happen in our childhood, we interpret what things mean based on what happened to us. That interpretation, that belief tied to this feeling, that's the program, not the memory. And this is what these painful beliefs and feelings, this is what we remove, oftentimes in as little as one sitting, with superneuroplasticity. So what happens is these subconscious programs get triggered when something in the outside world is a match for the belief tied to this painful feeling. We feel anxiety anytime we're in a situation when a painful feeling may be triggered. Our brain gives us anxiety to avoid pain, including emotional pain. We should note that even if the pain comes from not doing something, such as now I feel lazy or I feel like a coward for not doing a certain thing, I didn't do what I should, now I feel bad. This part of our brain only senses a situation and potential for pain. It will give us anxiety or resistance to doing something, even if not doing that thing is what triggers the pain. Also, it's important to realize that the outside occurrence is not the trauma. It's only a trigger for trauma that is in you. If you remove the subconscious trauma by rewiring your brain, super neuroplasticity, then the next time you're in that same situation, the trigger happens, there's no trauma in you. So you literally feel neutral. And that happens to me all the time. Even now, I started this 12 years ago. Things will happen. I'll say to myself, that used to just really mess me up and just trigger the hell out of me. And now I just feel nothing. So an example of getting triggered is maybe you have a subconscious belief in you, for example, when I fail, it means I'm a failure. Or maybe you have a subconscious belief tied to a painful feeling along the lines of, well, when I'm rejected by others, it means I'm a reject or I'm a loser. Let's say you have one of those bad subconscious programs in you, in your core. A lot of men have a really hard time approaching attractive women, and they get rejected by the woman and they feel awful. Well, that's why your anxiety's there. It doesn't want you to feel horrible from getting rejected. So the anxiety comes up and says, just avoid this girl. Our instinctual desire to avoid pain is greater than our instinctual desire to pursue pleasure, believe it or not. And it kind of makes sense because, hey, in ancient times, pain could lead to death. And if you're dead, no more chances to pursue pleasure. So realize there are people who feel just fine if others reject them. There are people who are okay if they fail. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times trying to invent the light bulb before he finally succeeded. He has several famous quotes. One among them is, hey, I never failed. My success just had 1,000 steps to it. Failure didn't really faze him. He also said, I haven't failed. I've learned one more thing that doesn't work. And so there are people who are just super resilient. This stuff doesn't really faze them, not for long, and oftentimes not at all. And they just keep going. So now let's watch 2 client interviews where the client gained the awareness of the root cause of his anxiety. And then we discuss how they used hypnosis with the superneuroplasticity protocol to remove the painful subconscious programs and replace them with good beliefs, thus removing the root cause that kept triggering unhealthy anxiety. So let's first watch Mario's interview where we discuss how I guided him through the super neuroplasticity protocol with hypnosis to cure both his social anxiety and fear of traveling to new places. We cured it permanently in one sitting. So here we go. It's about 5 minutes, a little less. And let's just play it and I'll comment as appropriate. What were you struggling with that made you want to come to me and have me help you out?
I was probably struggling with more like confidence anxiety and more traveling type anxiety stuff. It's more going out.
And what would you say was your biggest anxiety that we helped you with?
Honestly, I think it was the confidence one, which I think was at the root of the other one.
Okay, yeah. Tell us about that. How would that manifest? How often did you feel it? How bad did it get when it was at its worst? Like 0 to 10, how high do you think it would get at its worst?
It would be at like a 6 or 7 when going out to like new places or just in large groups of new people.
Mm-hmm. How often would you feel that?
Most times when I'd go out somewhere.
So pretty frequent, it sounds like.
Yeah, pretty frequently.
Okay. So you came to me. We did a session. What was the session like for you?
Outstanding.
So what
one
was
of the best people one of the best people
more.
I've seen. It was pretty well structured.
Mm-hmm.
Like you broke things down, we talked it out, we got figured out exactly what was going on, and we worked on it.
Yeah, and that's a really important thing I do that a lot of, I guess, other hypnotists don't take the time. We really take the time to figure out exactly what's in you that we need to change. What was the session like for you? What was that experience like?
Pretty introspective.
How so?
It got me to realize some stuff even I didn't know about myself.
Really? Such
Along
as? Um,
probably the connection between the confidence issues and the traveling issues.
oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
I had originally thought that they were two separate things.
Was actually the same underlying thing.
Yeah,
Okay. What's your experience been like since the session? What happened with that anxiety?
it's mostly gone. Like under unless it's a like large crowd of people,
Hmm.
then it's pretty much not there.
Not there at all, or just very little?
Not there at all.
Wow. And did that surprise you?
A little bit the first time, yeah, but then I just got used to it and it's better.
So I want to point this out. I'm not coaching this guy how to manage his anxiety. I'm not giving him symptom management or, hey, when this happens, then think of it this way, or, exposure therapy or anything like that. In one sitting, we're removing lifelong anxiety. And in fact, we remove two types of anxiety. But that's what super neuroplasticity does. Rewire the brain, get rid of the root cause. Nothing, no bad, painful subconscious program that could get triggered in the same circumstances. And therefore, there's no need for your brain to give you anxiety to try and avoid that pain. That pain's gone. It's not there. It was within you the whole time getting triggered in these situations. You change your mind, the anxiety goes away.
It's just all better.
What was that like the first time when you're like, hey, where's my anxiety?
It felt freeing.
Nice. Has it come back at all?
No, just again, just large crowds. That's other than that, it's pretty much it.
All right. Is it better with large crowds but still there, or is it no change with large crowds?
It's better. I'd put it at like a 2.
Okay. And what was it before? It's 2 out of 10 now. What's it before?
Large crowds would be at like an 8.
Damn. Okay. So we got even that one 75% gone. Okay. So that's Mario. One setting, lifelong anxiety. One type completely gone from 6 or 7 out of 10 down to 0. The other one, 8 out of 10 down to 2 out of 10. Not bad for a day's work, a few hours of work. So now let's watch a couple excerpts from an interview I did with my friend Ryan, where he mentions that the outside, focusing on the outside world, the methods he used along those lines to fix his anxiety. Notice how we discussed that he tried those. These outward solutions did not fix an internal problem. All your feelings, all your anxiety, it's just in your brain based on how your subconscious interprets things a certain way and gives you these feelings. You can literally rewire these belief systems. Outside solutions are not real solutions. It's symptom management at most. So we're going to discuss. So there's 2 short excerpts here, and let's watch.
And the only reason that I joined that community was because I was having so many issues of like approach anxiety, and I felt like I wanted to network with people that had this sorted. At first I thought that if I joined John's community and if I just listened to the webinars and things, that it would sort itself out, and that or if I did jujitsu or something, martial arts, it would make me more masculine, more dominant and confident, and I'd be able to do it. And all those things help me in different ways, but it still didn't address the main issue that I was having. I even thought that if I joined some like pickup boot camp and went on a 2-week boot camp, and I approached many girls there. I probably approached at least 100 girls down there in those 2 weeks.
So you approached like 100 women. How much easier did approaching So I want to stop there. That's actually tied to a type of therapy called exposure therapy. Like if you're afraid of dogs, they'll just make you be around dogs a lot, and then the fear goes away. But you have to understand, there's really two principles our brain uses that motivates us towards something, which is going to be desire or want, or avoid something, which will be internal resistance, dread, anxiety, fear, all of that. Avoid, avoid, avoid. So one is we're more comfortable around familiar things, and we avoid things that are new and unfamiliar. For some people that don't have a lot of subconscious trauma, they just need to approach a lot of girls, and then it becomes familiar, and that anxiety tied to it being unfamiliar goes away. But it didn't work for him. If just doing something a lot, and I've met many people like this, they try and force themselves through their anxiety by just doing something over and over and over that typically triggers anxiety, and it maybe gets a little better or not better at all. And they keep struggling. Why? That's a sure sign that there is subconscious trauma behind that anxiety. That's the root issue of that needs to be cleared. And that's what we do. We'll watch and keep going. 100 women at this camp make it to approach women after that.
So yeah, to my surprise at the time, not much easier at all. In fact, I approached 100.
That's his case. Didn't get much easier because merely being unfamiliar with approaching them wasn't really what his anxiety was about. Although that's there too. I'll point that out. We talk about that a little later, but it's a much lower anxiety merely going into an unfamiliar situation, doing new things. 2, 3, 4 out of 10 tops. 4 out of 10 tops. If it's stronger than that, there's something else going on, almost always subconscious trauma, or you're actually in danger and there's actually some sort of really big threat. That can happen too. And then your anxiety is serving you. It's saying, don't endanger yourself. But that's not the case here. We'll keep going.
100 women out a couple times, and I was able to approach them. So I think I had some momentum, but there was still fundamentally all the issues that I had that gave me the anxiety in the first place. But I didn't really know how. I didn't know how to actually experience the trauma and release the trauma. I knew that I had to let go of it, but I didn't know how to bring it to the surface, release it, and all of that. It was
okay. So he knew there was trauma to release. I actually did a one-on-one session. I ended up, I think, doing 2 for him. This he cured with self-hypnosis. So I did coach him a little, and then he's going to talk about how then he went to do self-hypnosis after getting some coaching and some data, and then what happened. So we'll skip ahead just a little bit.
issues.
How many sessions do you have to do to clear this out that you were struggling with for years?
Oh yeah, that took one.
One self-hypnosis session. That's how it works.
Yeah. It almost sounds too good to be true, like it's magic. But if you really think about it, like I was saying before, this is an internal problem, right?
That's super neuroplasticity. One session, rewire your brain, trauma's gone. No need for anxiety to avoid pain because the pain was a subconscious program and that painful program's gone.
And so this is very much an internal.
You can use the same self-hypnosis program that he used. It's for free on my Mind Chrysalis community, which is also free to join. 0 to 10, what was your approach anxiety before?
Yeah, it's probably about an 8.
And what is it now, just approaching girls?
Oh yeah, I would say it's like a 3.
Why did it not go down to 0? Well, it is a bit of an interesting situation with men approaching attractive women romantically. In ancient times, you may have only had 10 women who were suitable mates in your tribe. Maybe several of them were already spoken for, and you approach one of them, and her mate, who is this big warrior, bonks you over the head. Or you're not careful, and you approach all 10, and you get rejected by all 10, and now your genetics don't get passed on. So in ancient times, we've evolved some instinct to be cautious, in addition to the fact that you're approaching new women, new people you haven't met before. So that element of unfamiliarity is going to give you a little bit of anxiety. That's just instinct. 1, 2, 3 out of 10, pretty normal for men approaching attractive women. If it's any higher than that, like the 8 out of 10 he was talking about, he went in, self-hypnosis, found the trauma. It's almost always a type of toxic shame. I'm not good enough. I'm lazy and I'm a coward because I didn't approach her. That will actually cause approach anxiety. Your brain just connects the pain, the painful program, and the event, even if the pain comes from not doing it. it still gives you resistance, still gives you anxiety. Or if I approach this woman and she rejects me, then I'm a loser, I'm no good, I'm unattractive, etc. I shouldn't have approached her as inappropriate. And now you feel bad for being rejected. Either type of pain is a bad subconscious belief tied to a feeling. A good subconscious program we can put in to replace that bad program when we use superneuroplasticity. For example, we have you imagine a diamond or other massive jewel in your trust. And then the belief is, if others reject me, it doesn't mean I don't have value. Of course I have value. Look at this diamond in me, the real authentic me. It means they cannot see that diamond in me. That's their blindness. That's their problem. That is not a painful belief. That's actually a good belief. That's, hey, I have something to offer the world, so I'm going to share it with others. And when you have a good belief like that, that may get triggered in this situation, there's no pain there that's getting triggered. Maybe you feel a little sorry for the person who can't see that the real authentic you has value, but that's about it. And so your anxiety won't be there if you have a program tied to these situations that isn't painful, but is instead tied to self-belief in your ability and value, for example. And so that's our presentation for today. I hope you understand more now about what is at the root of unhealthy anxiety that holds you back. Typically, a lot of people struggle with these types of strong anxieties that keep them from getting what they want. You can struggle in your entire life because that trauma is there in your subconscious. But you can remove it oftentimes in just one sitting. You can even about 80% of you are going to be able to do it with our free program. Some people have more complex situations, need one-on-one guidance. A lot of you can fix your own anxiety for free using the training, using the free program. If you struggle with anxiety, please understand that there are solutions, powerful solutions. And I hope this has been helpful to you and has been a benefit to you.